Hi, Uri here. Today, I'm going to explain an Australian science fiction film called 2067. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The film's premise is set in the year 2067, when the world has been irreversibly damaged by climate change. All plant life has vanished. The amount of oxygen in the air has reduced rapidly due to the lack of plant life. To survive, people must purchase artificial oxygen. 99% of the world's population has lost power. People die from suffocation. Only one city in Australia has managed to exist in such conditions, and it's all because to a company called Chronicorp, which makes synthetic oxygen. Artificial oxygen, on the other hand, over time develops a lethal condition known as the sickness. Humanity has only a few years before it becomes extinct. Ethan White is a local of the Australian metropolis. He and his pal Jude work as mechanics. In the Chronicorp Corporation, the firm is also working around the clock to discover a treatment for the sickness as well as a plan to preserve the world. Xanthi, Ethan's wife, is likewise afflicted. Ethan works through all hours of the day and night to make money and provide her with better oxygen. Regina Jackson, the Chronicorp's CTO of particle research, summons Ethan and Jude to her office one day as they are working in the tunnel. She introduces herself to the two and informs them that humanity would perish in a few years unless the situation changes. She then says that Ethan is the one person who can preserve humanity and help everyone. Ethan is perplexed and refuses to trust her. Regina, on the other hand, demands that he come to their lab. The lab is equipped with massive machinery. Billy Mitchell, a lab doctor, introduces himself to Ethan and takes a brief look at Ethan's wrist gadget. They then tell him that this experiment was initiated by Ethan's father, Dr. Richard White, 20 years ago. The machine in front of them is called the Chronicle, and it is a time machine. They had to send radio waves into the machine to see what was on the other side in the machine's initial experiment. They discovered that the world would have enough vegetation 407 years later, in 2474, to retain adequate oxygen in the air and sustain human life. People come to believe that if civilization survives for hundreds of years, it is likely that they have solved all of the problems that plague their world. However, the experts were perplexed by an unusual behavior. The waves they had sent back had regenerated. When they decrypted it, they discovered that it had been delivered to them from the future, with the message "Send Ethan White." Regina and the rest of the team now want to send Ethan into the future to retrieve the cure. Ethan is completely taken aback. He doesn't trust them and believes Regina is faking it. He also does not want to abandon his sick wife and travel into the future. As a result, he declines to assist. Ethan and Jude are later seen at a diner, where they purchase crisp oxygen. Jude tries to persuade Ethan to carry out the plan and aid humanity's salvation. Ethan, on the other hand, laughs at him and says he doesn't want to be like his father. Ethan despises his father since he is never there for him. His father disappeared 20 years ago, and his mother was murdered when he was a child. Jude has raised him since then, and Ethan considers him to be his elder brother as well as his best friend. He holds him responsible for leaving his mother to finish the job, and he refuses to follow in his footsteps and abandon his sick wife. Jude, on the other hand, persuades him, telling him that the only way he can save his wife is to find a cure. Ethan recalls his 8th birthday, when his father gave him an unusual box as a present. A device clamps onto his wrist as he puts his hands inside the box, causing him to bleed. Richard had fitted his youngster with a permanent hand gadget. Ethan hasn't used it in years and has no idea what it's for. Ethan tells Xanthi everything that happened during the day later at home, and she, too, insists that he go. Ethan writes "I shall find my way back to you" on a metal flower and leaves it alongside Xanthi the next morning. He then returns to Regina's office and informs her that if he can only locate one cure, they must give it to Xanthi first. Regina accepts and drives him back to the lab. Dr. Mitchell demonstrates the suit he must put on before entering the machine. Ethan knows they don't have a plan as they begin to explain the goal to him. They don't know what he'll see or who he'll meet on the other side. They do, however, give him an AI gadget called the Archie when they put him in the suit. Archie will keep an eye on Ethan's vitals in the lab at all times. It will also assist him in locating his location. Finally, they toss him into the machine. Inside, Ethan travels through time at a breakneck pace. He plummets from the sky and lands in a forest he doesn't recognize. His outfit catches fire due to the friction in the air, so he swiftly exits it. Then he takes a look around and is taken aback by nature's splendor. He discovers that the world has changed dramatically. The trees and natural oxygen have returned. He follows Archie's directions and comes upon a bunker door of some type. But it's a skeleton in front of the entrance that captures his attention. It has a bullet wound in its skull. He also looks at the name tag on it and is shocked to see his own name on it. Ethan owns the skeleton. Ethan also discovers the skeleton's Archie and listens to the last recording. He shoots Ethan after hearing a man suggest that this is the only way. The device's power is then turned off. He is terrified, believing that this is what he will face. Then he notices the wrist device on the skeleton. It's identical to Ethan's, with the exception that the skeleton's device's light shines green, whereas Ethan's has been red his entire life. He builds a fire and eats wild berries that night. The berries turned out to be poisonous. Ethan vomits and begins to pass out. After a while, Ethan awakens and is astonished to see Jude standing in front of him. The lab had noticed Ethan's vitals decreasing and suspected he was having a toxic reaction. As a result, they hurriedly dispatched Jude to the future, armed with a treatment that would rescue him. Ethan and Jude discover his skeleton sometime later, indicating that his fate hasn't altered. They then employ Archie to locate a new door. Ethan's eye is scanned by some technology, which enables them entry. When they enter, he is greeted by a monitor. It requests a DNA sample from him. As soon as he accepts it, his wrist device activates, causing him to bleed. It turns green after the blood test. They realize they are in Chronocorp's lab 407 years later when the lights in the room switch on. They can also see the time machine in front of them. Jude is ecstatic since they now have the ability to travel back in time, but Ethan is skeptical, claiming that they haven't changed anything and that he will die, just like the dead Ethan. When Ethan examines the system log, he discovers a holographic recording recorded by his father, in which he reveals that the time machine was built to collect oxygen data on the future planet and then transmit it back to the past. When his father first turned on the time machine, however, he received a message instructing him to send his son into the future. Despite his reservations, he elected to proceed and performed a DNA verification for Ethan here. Ethan and Jude soon realize that the time machine's battery is nearly gone after 407 years, and they will be unable to return. Worse, the lab's activation causes a fault in its nuclear power core, threatening to spark a nuclear explosion in as little as 4 hours. This means they'll have to figure out how to fix the time machine so they can travel back in time before the explosion. They must act swiftly because they are running out of time. They are startled to find a devastated city covered in verdant flora but devoid of inhabitants outside, demonstrating that the planet begins to regenerate after human extinction. Human skeletons can be found all over the place. When Ethan arrives to his wife's house, he discovers her bones, which devastates him. Jude tries to encourage him to return to the past because the remedy for the illness does not appear to exist in the future world. Jude's statements, on the other hand, make Ethan suspicious. He then switches on the rusted Archie to listen to the recording again, and he recognizes Jude's voice, implying that Jude is the one who shot him. Jude points his gun towards Ethan, emphatically stating that he will not shoot him. Finally, Ethan decides to finish the assignment first, so they work together to rebuild the power core and then return to the lab. Now that the Chronicle system is up and running, they should be able to travel back in time. All they have to do now is wait 37 minutes for the gateway to open. The gateway will tether to 2067 for approximately 30 seconds as the countdown reaches 0. However, Ethan's body is still found behind a closed door in the same spot, implying that nothing has changed in the future. To discover the truth, Ethan removes the battery from his current Archie and replaces it with the rusted one. As a result, he gains access to another video, in which Ethan is certain that Jude will kill his future self. Jude then admits that there is no way to change the future and that he is merely attempting to protect Ethan. Ethan puts his brother in a room and plays again his father's hologram log from the day he died, finding it difficult to believe. He soon discovers a chat between his father and the Chronocorp's CTO, Regina Jackson. It's revealed that Ethan's father meant to use the time machine to save all of humanity by discovering the cure, whilst the CTO just intended to use it to escape the dying period with a select few. Regardless of the strategy they choose, someone must travel into the future and activate the time machine, to safely transmit living matter through time. Both sides must be operational. His father locks the time machine and uses Ethan's DNA as the verification key to stop the CTO from carrying out her scheme. The CTO assassinated Ethan's father right away, enraged by what he had just done. She then tells Jude to kill Ethan's mother and become his guardian so that they can use Ethan's wristband to access the future one day. Ethan is completely taken aback. The man he mistook for his brother turned out to be the same person who murdered his mother and is ready to murder him as well. He also understands that he misunderstood his father, who did not abandon his family on purpose. Ethan tries to shut down the time machine since he knows Regina plans to send a select few into the future, but Jude intervenes and explains that he's been dispatched by the CTO to guarantee that Ethan is transported in time to fix the power outage. He should kill Ethan after he starts the time machine. Jude, on the other hand, has developed strong emotional bonds with Ethan throughout the years. He feels guilty seeing his brother-like friend in such a situation as a result of him. So, rather than shooting Ethan, he kills himself. Ethan is driven by fury and guilt to fulfill his father's dying wish, to find the cure and save the dying people. When he peers onto the monitor, he sees his father's very first message. He deduces that he was the one who sent the message, "Send Ethan White." As a result, he re-encodes the message and sends it into the past, along with a slew of other items. Meanwhile, in the year 2067, the CTO and a number of elite chosen persons await the activation of the time machine in a laboratory. The time machine, however, sends back hundreds of extinct plants as well as a copy of Ethan's father's recorded murder, much to their surprise. Ethan destroys the time machine shortly after, putting the CTO's strategy to the test. Finally, the CTO is apprehended for the murder. The plants that were sent back to 2067 are being nurtured in order to rejuvenate the Earth. Ethan's wife also receives a flower from him and is supportive of his decision. While Ethan is forced to remain alone in the future world, he buries Jude and forgives him. A butterfly captures his attention and takes him back to the same door, where Ethan is relieved to discover that his future self's corpse has vanished. He rushes outdoors to take a look around and is relieved to see a modern, environmentally friendly metropolis, as opposed to the deserted one from earlier. His decision had altered the course of human history. To support the channel, subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch.